Hey, what is up guys? So today I'm going to be explaining why cards lose their value or cards go up in value. Now we're going to be using Breakers of Shadows for this example, but you can apply this to almost any set in this game. So anyways, Breakers of Shadow just got released about a week ago, and even before that we had the sneak peek. So a lot of these cards were very expensive because this set was absolutely amazing. There were some of the best cards we've seen in a long time in this set. Now, whether it is Cyber Dragon Infinity, the Perform Pal Pendulum Sorcerer, there are a bunch of different cards that come out of a bunch of different sets that are very, very strong. And this is one of the first sets where we're actually getting double secret rares inside a box. So that does have to take into consideration some of the prices of the cards, because obviously if there are more of them, technically they are easier to pull and there are more in the market. When there are more things in the market, the value tends to go to a direction where things get cheaper and cheaper, just because if there's more of them, that just means that the demand is still going to be high, but the supply is also going to be as high. I mean, you can use the whole supply and demand argument for this, and it's very good examples, because some of the cards that go up in price aren't necessarily like good cards. They're just kind of expensive because fans just like the cards. This would be an excellent example. Heck, we can use freaking Dark Magician Girl Knight, the Dragon Knight. That could also be a very good example of a card that's just really not that great, but it is just expensive just in general. As you guys have been asking me during the live streams and stuff like this, some of you guys are like, I just pulled this, should I sell it? Well, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to profit off of this game, or do you want to actually use it in your deck? Because if you want to use it in your deck, I still actually recommend you guys to always get rid of the cards, especially during sneak peek, if you can get their max value at sneak peek. Basically what I'm saying is sneak peek values are always going to be higher than other values. So when sneak peek happens for any set, generally the prices are double, sometimes even triple of what they will actually be later down the line. We're only 1 week into Bosch and everything has dropped about 50%. Now that's due to two reasons. First off, Breakers of Shadows is an amazing set and people are buying it like crazy, so there's going to be way more in the market. Now after all of the players get the cards that they want, they don't really need to open up any more boxes to get those high price values that they can actually resell for. A lot of times when a new set comes out, there are people that get a hold of the cards faster and therefore they can sell them online, and people will be playing absurd prices because they just want to build it and finish their deck. They want to go to that next tournament and win that tournament with their new cards. So they need like maybe multiple copies of Infinity, they need triple sorcerer, they need it day one, and that's what causes the prices to go up like crazy, is because the supply for them is very low in the very beginning. I'm talking about before sneak peek. Obviously, you know, most stores won't sell them, but sometimes stores accidentally put them out, or some people have access to getting them before that they're actually released. And again, this all has to do with supply and demand, because the supply is low during that first like early week, and like I said, because people need them specifically for some tournaments. Maybe they need Rafflesia. There's a bunch of cards that you just need for your deck immediately, and so that's what causes the cards to go very high up in price in the very beginning. Now after a while, after people have opened their packs, after there are more cards in the market, things tend to go down, especially with, like I said, most of the stuff in the set has gone down. Now I'll be mentioning some prices in this video, but keep in mind, you know, these could change if you're watching this like a couple weeks later. Everything can change. That's due to reprints, that's due to cards viability, that's due to the ban list. I mean, Atlantean Prince, some people were trying to get like 30 bucks for this card earlier, and I told you guys that's way too high. First off, Mermails, as of right now, when I'm making this video, they're not doing too hot. They're probably not going to do too hot unless they get some crazy other card. I mean, the deck can OTK, but at the end of the day, the deck isn't nearly as strong as the Perform Pal, Perform Mage deck. So you have to look at how viable is the card right now and also in the future. In the future, we know of no known other support that is going to be coming out for Mermails or Atlanteans. So this deck might just get like one card here, one card maybe way later down the line. We don't know about anything. But with the Perform Mage and Perform Pals, they're getting more support down the line, so the viability of this deck just keeps on getting greater and greater. In addition to that, we also know that, you know, more than likely something will happen to them on the ban list. Sometimes Konami doesn't hit anything on the ban list. Sometimes they let things slip by, like Satellar Knights. I think a lot of you guys were also really surprised that that deck didn't get touched at all. Sometimes it takes a few formats for a deck to really get touched and get really nerfed on the ban list, so to speak, so that the deck can't play nearly as well. But for the most part, there are other cards that will just see less and less play. For example, in the OCG, pretty much no one runs this card anymore. Yeah, there are a few, but because of other cards replacing other cards in the extra deck, especially since like pretty much in the OCG people are either doing Solemn Notice, they've like stopped running Bottomless completely because the card is just too slow. There are a bunch of new Pendulum cards coming out in the game where it makes it so your opponent can't, when you go for your Pendulum play, if it's not a warning, you can essentially stop it. So that's why Rafflesia has just kind of fallen out of favor. Sure, the Treacherous Trap Hole is great. Sure, Bottomless Trap Hole is great. Space-Time Trap Hole can be great. But the thing is, it's just going to get outclassed. So some of these cards will just be outclassed later down the line. So that's why they will also lose their value. Now, like I mentioned before, there are certain cards that will just kind of be expensive just because fans kind of like the card. Buster Blader can kind of be an example of this. It's a smaller example. One excellent example, like I said before, would be the Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. That's an excellent example of just a fan favorite card, and that will actually have it maintain its value much better. Also, rarity has to do with some things. Now, if Twin Twister is a secret rare, you bet this card would maintain its value much better, simply because we don't see this card in just one deck. We see Twin Twisters in almost every deck that's playing right now. So that also can factor into why a card either goes up in price or down in price. Like, let's say, one card was only used in one deck. If that deck gets nerfed, no one will really want to play that card anymore. Even if it was the best deck, if it's nerfed, it's no longer the best deck, therefore why play the card in the first place? Because it's only catered towards one deck. Now, like I said, Twin Twisters you can use in every deck pretty much. I don't see a deck that wouldn't play this. Maybe like Super Heavy Samurais because they need to have like no spells and traps in the grave or whatever. So yeah, that can be an excellent example. Another example of why cards go up and down in price is due to a card basically helping what is currently the meta, or basically what is the best deck at the moment. So this is one good example. So this is Vector Pendulum, the Draco Overlord, and it negates all card effects in your opponent's Pendulum Zone. Pretty nasty effect. Plus, in addition to that, you can use Clash of the Draco Rivals, and you can use this in the deck. So this card technically went up in price. Now, I will always recommend you guys, as soon as a set comes out, and you want to profit most off of it, whether you want to actually build the deck, I still recommend you guys to get rid of it, especially during Sneak Peek, because 99% of the time, there are exceptions, which we will get into, but most of the time, the card will never maintain its value higher than its Sneak Peek price. So that means as soon as the card comes out, that's when it's going to be the most hot. Now, there are other cards that can maintain their value just because they're so dang hard to pull. Again, goes same hand in hand with supply and demand. Now, for example, we can look at this card over here, Necroface, Secret Rare. This card is very, 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 very difficult to pull. Some of you older Yu-Gi-Oh fans will understand how hard this card is to pull. Pretty much anything in Gladiator's Assault. But even though this card has had a reprint, this card is just so dang hard to pull. Sure, the demand of this card is low, but the supply is so low compared to some other cards. Even if they're more viable in the game, certain cards just maintain their value because they're just very, very scarce. Obviously, yeah, it has its reprint, but people want the secret rare. That's just how some people are. Now, like I said, there are certain exceptions to this like logic. Like for example, like this card, no one's gonna really play it. No one's gonna really use this in the meta, but it's one of those fan favorite cards. Now, going against the grain, so there are some cards that are exceptions to these rules, and that's just because of the way that this game works. Now, certain times, a ban list is coming right around the corner, and we have a new set just coming right around the corner as well. So what can happen is, like, for example, this is Fire Fist Rooster, or some of you guys knew it as Chicken. Now, before Chicken came out, everyone was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get on this Fire Fist Chicken hype. And the deck was really, really strong, but then the deck got nerfed, therefore causing all the prices to go down. And that happened immediately after we had the new ban list take into effect. We couldn't abuse the Spirit Rooster mechanic, and that can obviously make the price go down, because if the deck's not really as good as it once was due to a ban list, then obviously you have to take that into consideration. And also reprints, just as a heads up, also cause cards to go down in price. Now, it's not very often that we get something from a set. Like, we probably don't have to worry about Cyber Dragon Infinity getting reprint like next week or something like that. But sometimes things get reprint faster than other cards. Some of the YCS cards, some of the prize cards, I know right now we have Minerva. That's a very expensive card. and we just had the announcement that Giant Hand got reprinted. Now, that took a very, very long time. Certain prize cards get reprinted much faster. The Dark Lords didn't really see much play, but those got reprinted relatively quick. But again, no one really wanted to play those, so those didn't see very much play in the first place anyways. But nonetheless, some cards get reprinted faster than others, and you just have to also just keep that in mind. There's no real way I can say, oh guys, within 1 month, this specific card is going to get a reprint, so you guys got to watch out and sell them, or get rid of them, or trade them, or whatever, relatively quick. But like I said, there are certain exceptions to this rule. First off, Tour Guide from the Underworld was an excellent example, and it's going to go against the grain for so many different reasons. So, okay, so first off, Tour Guide, very, very good card as we know it now. But when it first came out, everyone was like, what are these XYZs? You go for a little Granosaurus 2000 attack? Not that big of a deal. But then when people realized, oh, you go Tour Guide Sangan, go ahead and go into number 17, Detach, get that effect. And then, like, there were several different rulings during YCSs and huge tournaments where, like, some said you couldn't do it, some said you could do it, some said Macro stopped it, some said Macro didn't stop it. There were a lot of different things. Some people said D-Fissure stopped it. When we were just being introduced into the XYZ archetype, especially with D-Fissure and Macro, a lot of judges ruled things differently depending on where you were. Now, some judges ruled that Tour Guide Sangan into number 17 Detached didn't get the effect, and some ruled it that you did. It went back and forth for a very long time. Some of you guys that know about this know that it was really annoying to have judges rule things differently, but that's just how it is, because sometimes things can get complicated in this little children's card game. But Tour Guide, it was actually really cheap. It was like 20 bucks when it first came out, and no one really cared about it. And then once the hype got real, it went to like $80, and everyone's like, wow, that's absolutely crazy. And then it went to $150 because if you wanted to play the deck, you had to have 3 copies of Tour Guide. Also, what can take into consideration of how much a card is worth and how much it will be worth in the future is how many copies of that card would you play. Now, for example, Tour Guide, I know in the OCG it's at multiple, in TCG it's different, but when a card first comes out, it's usually going to be at 3. Again, there are certain things that kind of go against the grain, but, well, I mean, for the most part, you know what I mean by that card. It's just other things got hit on the ban list. But Tour Guide, for example, this is a card that you would want to play 3 copies of, like, hands down. When it first came out, like I said, no one used it, then people realized how good a card was. Now, usually what will happen is people will know how good a card is simply because of its viability in the OCG. So Japan will always be ahead of us in terms of, you know, game mechanics. Unless it's a TCG exclusive, then we have no experience, we have no idea how to really use it because people haven't been testing with it. But once we get that announcement that it's in the TCG, and because the game has evolved where we can test things on Dueling Network, we can go on DevPro, we can go YGO Pro, we have all these different ways to access the game online and play and mess around with the cards before they come out, so we can find out if they are indeed good enough to actually play them in our decks or not, and then how many copies, and then what other combos can we use, what other cards are needed and required to make the deck good. Therefore, certain cards can obviously go up in price. Like when Tour Guide started seeing more play, Sangan went up in price. I'm talking about, like, you know, the other versions of Sangan, not the common. Well, maybe common one went up by like 2 cents, but you know what I mean by that. That can drive the price of other cards up. But anyways, I hope this helps some of you guys out. So for the most part, if you guys, I guess, want like a brief summary real quick, what I recommend you guys to do is, even if you want the card, like even if you need Cyber Dragon Infinity, during Sneak Peek, you will always get more for your card during Sneak Peek. Like for example, this card was like 80 bucks during Sneak Peek, and what is it right now? Maybe 50 or 40 bucks. So yeah, things will go down, and that's just kind of how Yu-Gi-Oh is. Unless, of course, there are certain cards to the exception, like Tour Guide, but those are very, very rare cases, and you will have a much better overall experience if you just get rid of them as soon as they come out, especially during Sneak Peek prices. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any comments or suggestions, or you felt like I missed out on anything, let me know in the comment section below. But I hope this helps you guys out, whether you are a vendor or if you're just a Yu-Gi-Oh player that likes to trade cards and maintain those high card values. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. It's been your boy Will Smith, signing out.